Act like you're doing something inappropriate.
Okay.
You can pull that thing close, sit back, get comfy.
I mean, my man's just talking about, getting back to the good news, and here you are talking about fellatio.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
that could be good news in the right relationship.
He asked how he wanted it, and I was like, well, here's how we like it here on the Twang Town podcast.
Here's how we do it, Twang Town.
And you're going to double down on it.
Twanging down.
It's ridiculous.
Just following your lead, David.
I did nothing of the sort. I'm just
He's just
speechless.
Yeah,
Stuck.
there you go. He's stuck.
It's very rare you stumble David on having words come out of his mouth.
I was on the way to the gym this morning, and my day started off. I go to the gym. I have a window, Brian, in between, because they closed the Christchurch YMCA and they closed the Maryland Farms one, which was a great idea. Well, there's not any people living in those areas.
Yeah, there's not extra people that have moved here in the last 5 years.
Nobody wants that.
And the only one close to me now is that Concord Road YMCA.
Right.
Now, to get there, I have to pass through Nippers Corner. Nippers Corner has an intersection where at rush hour in the morning, you have a window of 3 seconds to get through this light. So
that's plenty of time.
There's 2 lanes that go, but one of them cuts off and goes into Kroger, and then it ends after that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I sure do.
Well, there's 2 lanes, so I just go up, and eventually I can get back over in that left lane and continue on down Edmondson Pike to turn on to Old Smyrna Road and go back ways to Concord. I get this whole thing. I do it every morning. There's a window for me to get in the YMCA at 7:15 and out by 8:30 before everyone else
shows up.
Gets there and leave.
Yeah.
This morning I'm in that right lane, and I've got plenty of space to get back over.
I can see what's coming.
And this douche nozzle in his tiny penis Porsche SUV.
Oh, even smaller.
Yeah, I start to get over, and he just comes right up. Doesn't want to let me over. And there's plenty of room. He didn't
want you to get in front of him.
Either go by me or let me in.
His car is way more expensive than yours. You can't do that.
Oh, well, I decided he was going to let me, and he did let me. Now, this
did you
man
swap paint?
No.
Did he give you the finger?
He threw a fit. Brian, I've been trying to walk closer with the Lord and control my anger, which Jenna tells me that I'm doing a better job with these days. I haven't tried to drag anyone out of a car or be violent with anyone. I've been giving them thumbs up instead of the finger.
Oh, that's a good one.
The thumbs up is almost worse than the finger.
Yeah.
When they do something
stupid. It's kind of like rubbing it in.
Yeah, you're like, hey, good job.
You're doing great back there.
You're doing great back there.
I saw what you did. Just want you to know.
This old asshole, and I just had enough. And he started doing that. And I was like, all right, why don't you follow me over here into this parking lot? We can talk about it.
You took it to the next level.
I said, come on, let's go over here. At that moment, I think he had realized that he was in too deep, and he backed off.
Oh, yeah.
He got way back off.
Yeah.
He saw there was a big redneck in the car in front of him that was not having his Porsche shit this morning. Yeah. So I just want to repent. And you confess
there you
sins here the week after
7
Easter.
Hail Marys and continue on, brother.
That's it. Our Father's our Father as in earth and the helicopter.
And only thing that would have been better is if you'd have said, and then when I got to the Y, there he was pedaling a bike right next to me.
Right?
Every fiber in my being wishes he would have followed me to the YMCA. I have a couple years of pent-up Nashville frustration that I would love to take out on some man's head.
I think we all got that.
Yeah. Welcome to Twangtown. I am David Tolliver.
And I am Colt Mercy. And today we have with us Brian White. Let it sing. Come on. Come on. Bring it.
It's not a taped crowd. That's a real crowd.
I love being in front of a live audience.
Yeah. Brian White filmed in front of a live studio audience.
That's it.
Oh
Yeah.
my
How's it
gosh.
going, man?
Good, man. You know what? First, I want to say thanks for having me. I follow this, and I've
Do
seen
you?
everybody else, and I know I saw Rustin on here last week. I guess it
Yeah,
was, and I'm just
yeah.
like, I'm going to get to be on there. That's kind of a cool thing.
Is it? Is it though?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a notch in the old belt here at the music industry side.
It's the
thing.
most
Well,
beautiful. It's the most beautiful feather in any cap.
It is. The plumage is so great.
Yes, we're like a giant peacock.
If Forrest Gump came back out now, we would be the feather in Curious George books.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
So no, but I just want to say thanks. And,
man.
But I'm doing great, man. I mean, it's life is good, and the good Lord is still the good Lord. And,
Yes, sir.
And I was just mentioning when we were off before we got on mic, or
Yeah.
maybe it was, I don't know. But it just seems to me, this is 38 years I've been in town.
Wow.
And when I moved here, I moved as a youth pastor, and so I was involved in, and I'm still involved in Christian music. I write a lot of that, but I was an artist for 15 years. But there seems to be a real resurgence of people who are just really kind of seeking and pursuing a God conscious and a relationship with the Lord in their life.
and acknowledgement too.
It totally,
Yeah.
and it's not anything anybody's backing off from. And so, I love that. And
Well, we shouldn't be ashamed about it.
no. Well, there was a point, not ashamed as much as you felt like you might get pigeonholed or marked.
What's funny, Christianity is such an interesting religion in the sense that, if you believe in a different religion or whatever, everybody seems to embrace it and
Right.
and respect it. But whenever it comes to Christians doing the same thing, like thanks God for this or that, it's almost it seems like it's been kind of frowned upon the last handful, 10, 15 years. But like you said, I feel like people are really embracing it now and like, hey, no, this is a part of my life. And if I want to choose to celebrate his power and,
Right.
and glory, and then I'm going to do it.
I love this is the discussion we have right after my road rage conversation.
Well, the Lord's working in your life, David.
Well,
so
it
it's
wasn't
just
my road rage. I was just going to discuss the road rage that
exactly.
someone
You
else
can give
is having.
someone the thumbs up, then you're doing really well,
Man,
David, and
I didn't
God's
give him
proud
the
of you.
finger. I didn't do anything. I just wanted to have a slight discussion. Anyway, yeah, I agree, man. It's you see people like Chris Pratt on MTV accepting awards and just out there spreading it, and I'm like, yeah, and he does it in a way that's not preachy. That's
Doing it in Hollywood, which is like, whoa.
Yeah, it's not like, I always used to joke about the fact that, God didn't call me to walk into a room and go, turn or burn. It's like you guys need to, walk the walk or face the block. It's like, go live your life. And when I first started even writing on the countryside over at BMG, and they took me to a songwriter retreat, and I was the gospel guy. I was that guy because that's all my successes at that point had kind of been in that genre. And but it was very, Ron Stuvey and Oglesby and those guys were really embracing of. There was no one ever saying, "Well, man, you just need to know when you're over here, just don't be preaching or talking the gospel or whatever." And I didn't preach; I just was living my life. And but you know what? I see it more and more after all these years, and God has given me a lot of opportunities to show His favor, to others, and I love it. I love it. I love where things are at in our industry. I'm seeing kind of even a resurgence of like country music really coming back around in a vibe, and
Oh yeah.
so it's just fun, and I just am thankful that I'm still in the middle of it.
We are too, man.
Yeah, when you brought up BMG, made me realize that's where I first met you 21 years ago.
21. That's 3 sevens.
That's 3 sevens.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
I forgot about until you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was an intern there for a year back in 2004.
Wow.
With Aaron Rathbone and Stuvey, and Oglesby had just left.
Yeah.
He was there for a hot minute, and Michelle Berlin and Martha.
Holy
Earls.
cow. Haven't heard
Was
that
Irwin.
name in a while.
Which one?
Michelle Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
There.
Yep. I remember 12 and Porter.
Yeah.
Where is she now? I haven't.
You know what?
Have you
It's
seen
funny.
her?
Yeah, I do a lot of things down in 30A for the festival and stuff. And we were down there, my wife and I, during the summer, just And lo and behold, I'm sitting in a restaurant, and I go, "That's Michelle Berlin."
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
and she was down there. Now I don't know where she's at now, and that's been a few years back. But she was married down there, and I don't know what she was doing.
I think the last I heard, she's not there anymore. I could be wrong.
No,
but I can't remember where it would have been. She would have.
If anyone has the whereabouts of Michelle Berlin, please let us know. We'd like to say hi.
She's a sweet. Yeah. That was my first exposure to the country side of pitching, and I just remember it was Martha and Michelle,
Yep.
and Michelle would come in dressed to the nines,
Yep.
and they go, "Well, it's pitch day."
That's right.
Wow.
And
Where were you born?
I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio.
I didn't know you were a
dude.
Cincinnati.
I'm a Buckeye. I'm a diehard Reds fan, a diehard Bengal fan.
Well, Cincinnati's kind of like Northern Kentucky. You're one of us. You're one of ours.
Yeah. And right across the bridge there, Westchester, Ohio, which is about 15 minutes north of Cincinnati,
Kings Island.
Yeah,
man.
I lived. That was my backyard.
Yeah, that was our amusement park growing up.
Growing up in high school, that was the place on. During the summer, we'd all just go, you'd meet up with all your friends and go to Kings Island and hang out and get in trouble and do all the things you shouldn't do. But you know what? Yeah, that's my backyard.
Nice.
My mom and dad stayed there. Dad passed about 3 years ago, but my mom is still there.
Wow.
In a retirement center. And so we go up and back quite a bit, my wife and I, to visit and play some shows up there. And then they just started doing the big Voice of America Festival, which is at the Voice of America Park, right across the street, literally across the street from my home church.
Wow.
And it's, last year, I think Aldean and Keith and just a bunch of people. So we were up there with that. And it's just so cool to see my little town of Westchester. Yeah. It's grown and expanded. But, yeah, that's hometown.
Wow.
Man.
I did not know that. I've known you for quite a few years.
A lot of years, yeah. So there's probably a lot of things we don't know about each other.
We probably shouldn't tell it either.
You're right.
I waited for Hank Jr. for 2.5 hours at the Wolf something.
The Great Wolf.
Great Wolf, at the Kings Island one year.
Did he finally come out?
He finally came out 2.5 hours after he was supposed to start.
Oh my gosh.
He probably just got there.
He probably did. I don't really remember because I had some libations.
Yeah. 2.5 hours worth.
2.5 hours.
Everyone
libations.
did. Everyone did.
Yeah.
It was interesting. No, I loved going to that park, man. Riding the Beast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was
the biggest wooden roller coaster in the world.
I haven't been to that park.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it's awesome. It's a great park, and they just I've left my mark there a few places.
Yeah,
and,
I peed all over that place.
Oh gosh, I love it.
What did you do growing up there in
Westchester? I was a Lakota Thunderbird, which is now Lakota East and West, which is a big powerhouse schools in the area there. And I played baseball.
You played baseball
at the high school level, and then I went on and played college baseball.
Where'd you play?
I went to Mount Vernon Nazarene University, which is
the
north
old
of Columbus.
Nazarenes.
It was like Trevecca or Belmont or Lipscomb, and so I graduated high school and then went there and played baseball.
Did you do music growing up at all?
You know what? I started playing guitar. I was asked to be in the musical in high school, Sound of Music. And
who were you?
I was Kurt.
I was too.
What?
When I was 12 years old.
Did you just become best friends?
When I was 11 years old, Jenny Wiley Theater in East Kentucky.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
My kid was actually just in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, out at Grace Christian. Last year she was in
That's so funny because I was that guy, and they had come to me and said, "Hey, would you be in the musical tryout?" And I was a baseball player. I was a jock. I was like, "Nah, man, my buddies will never let me live that down."
And you weren't wrong.
Well, you're right. And so, but there were some cute girls in the musical.
Yeah.
And so I thought, and I love
There's always
music
an angle.
enough. There is. Yeah. So they said to me, "Hey, there's a song in there called Edelweiss, and we just want you to hold this guitar and sit there with the family as it's being sung and act like you're playing it." And I thought, well, freak, if I'm going to act like I'm playing it, I might as well learn how to play it.
Yeah.
And it was only like 3 or 4 chords at that time. So I kind of learned how to fumble my way through it. And I just noticed that when I would start messing around with it before we had practices, Well, the girls would all
Oh, this self-serving, wanting the women. Isn't it?
Exactly.
They just instinctively flocked.
It's a recurring theme that we hear from musicians all the time.
It was totally that. So I did that, and then when I went to college, I just kept playing guitar and started writing really bad songs at that point. But I traveled in a group representing the college. During the summer, we would go do youth conferences and youth camps, and so I traveled and sang and did that as a part of a scholarship. Mm-hmm. So that between that and my baseball, I was like, okay, this is great. And I never dreamt in a million years that my life would kind of turn out into the music field. When I graduated with a radio and TV degree, so I became a DJ in Fairfield, Ohio, which is just right there outside of where I grew up. And a pastor friend of mine knew I'd traveled and sang, and his church was right there. And he said, hey, where are you going to go to church? And I thought I'd just go to my home church where I grew up. And I said that. And he goes, well, what would you consider being my minister of youth and music? And I'm thinking to myself, again, a bad way to think. But I thought, well, you're going to pay me to go to church and play with kids? Hey, I can do that. And so I was the youth pastor. And I found, the guitar was always great to have when you're leaving a Bible study or you're at a camp or whatever it may be. And as it would have it, the Lord just kind of allowed that to kind of develop. And I was a youth pastor for 10 years. The last 4 years here in Nashville, I got called to be youth pastor at Grace Nazarene, right across from Opryland. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when I left, I was in Oskaloosa, Iowa. I had taken a church there.
Oskaloosa? Doesn't sound Native American at all.
At all.
It's a town of 11,000, but the church ran about 1,000 at that time. And I had a really big youth group. And so I got the call to come here to Grace Church. And my pastor there in Iowa said, if you leave and go to Nashville, you'll never move. You love music and you'll never leave.
It's true.
And he was right. And so I was a youth pastor for 4 years there. And that led to songwriting and a publishing deal with Brentwood Benson.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led to a record deal with Broken Records, which was kind of the rock label for Maranatha Music. So I toured as Brian White and Justice for 15 years.
Wow. What was that name again?
Brian White and Justice.
And Justice. Did you spell it all weird or anything?
No, I didn't. I spelled it right.
Come on.
But we were kind of like Bon Jovi for Jesus. It was kind of like, come on. It was that whole thing. And
I love it.
Come on. And I had a really good mullet and
I need
all
pictures.
those things. Oh, they're on the internet. But that was just the way the Lord was just directing and moving me. And I've never gotten away from the fact that when things didn't seem like they were going how I thought they should go, that things were a lot better when I just let the Lord do his thing.
It's funny how those plans, it's the old thing of you ask the Lord for flowers and he gives you rain.
Yeah.
And you're like, why did you do that? This is what I want.
Yeah.
And then you just got to wait.
That's right.
I was telling myself on the way home from the YMCA this morning.
Just wait, there'll be another guy in line behind you.
That's right. Just feeling completely just defeated that I had been that guy again. And it was like all I heard was patience. It's like, you just don't have any patience. I don't. None of us do. I think we can learn to, but it's just, I don't have patience for anything. I don't have patience to wait around on music. I don't have patience. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to wait on people to get out of my road. I have
my
to.
road.
It is my road. I pay those
David
tax
Oliver
dollars.
Highway.
Hey, get out of my road.
But it's timing. Everything's timing, and sometimes we just have to wait for the right timing.
It's totally that.
When did you move here to Nashville?
80. Oh gosh.
Oh,
I want to say 85.
Ooh,
86, something like that. I've been here about 38 years, I think it is. We're figuring out, and I came and it was obviously it's way different. Than what I'm looking at now. I mean, my first song that I ever demoed was with the Spear family, which was a big Southern gospel group, and they had a little house right down on 17th Avenue, where all those condos and everything. Remember all those little houses were there, and and I remember just walking in there and going, "This is where the music business happens.
Yeah, this is
just
weird.
yeah,
You expect to see when you move here like a recording studio that's massive and grand, and every record label has a recording studio in it, and that's where the guys in there are all singing together with the same microphone and playing the instruments, and it's just not at all how your image of what it is gets completely shattered when you first. It's not a bad way. It's like oh okay. You pull the curtain back. You see what the Wizard's doing now.
Well, it was the same thing with coming here and looking at album notes and going, oh, wait, who are these guys? That's not the guys in the band playing these songs. Who are these studio session guys? And then realizing that songwriters, there was actual songwriters that, not all the guys wrote their own stuff. And it was just a real eye-opening thing for me. And I loved it, and it kind of, like I said, morphed into a relationship with the Benson Company, and I started getting cuts, and I was like, okay, I like this.
And you went like, what's it, like striper rock?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is, we were kind of that as a band.
Yeah.
But I was getting cuts with people like Larnelle Harris and Michael English and Point of Grace and Avalon. They're like going, okay, that's totally different than what you do.
Yeah.
And so I would go out on the road. The funny thing is, like, I write for Red Street now, which is, Jay, DeMarcus, and those guys. And some of my first cuts were with a group called East to West, which was Jay.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he was in East to West with Neil Coomer. And so we joke about that, but I'm like going, okay, that's so funny to me that I'm writing these pop kind of sounding Christian songs. But when I go out on the road, it's kind of like rock with me.
Yeah.
It's just, so it was just a different thing. But I love the fact that I wasn't pigeonholed and told, no, you got long hair and earrings. You should write that. They're like, well, just write what you know.
Yeah. So. That's great, man. That's absolutely great. I just trying to picture you with a mullet right now. It's not working for me.
Dude, it's you know what? My kids will bring it up. They'll find it online. It's just if you
I'm about to now.
You and Billy Montana. Where's the Billy Montana album?
You know what? When I first I can't even believe that. When I first time I saw Billy with that, I was like, wait. All I've ever known Billy is
the shaved head.
The shaved head.
When they used to look like Mel Gibson from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Oh boy!
When did
Oh boy!
Oh, did you find it?
Oh, there
boy!
Yeah, baby.
Look at that vest.
What's the vest?
Look at the knee. Look at the pose.
The hands. The
power
folded
pose.
hand. Oh my gosh!
Is he praying or is he about to cut somebody? I don't know. Damn, son.
And you know what? I should have got sued for that record because if you listen to it, I ripped off Bon Jovi so bad and White Snake and all those guys, and because that's where the influence is in my.
Wow, you were very Rodney Foster in this one.
That was the second record, and that was okay. When I went in, they were like, "Okay, we're getting haircuts, we're putting you in a jacket, we're doing," when you're signed to a label, you're going, "Okay." And I just remember we went in for that photo shoot that day, and a couple of my guys were like, "They're not cutting my hair." And I was like,
"Is that you?"
Wow, look at that.
And then that was the U2 phase.
What is this?
Know. And if you look close
enough, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah. You're very Ricky Bobby.
You've got
if Ricky Bobby was a Christian artist.
Shades on.
That was our U2 phase right there.
Oh,
man.
yeah. I see that.
I got silver glitter nail polish on one hand.
You do.
Oh,
oh
Brian.
my God, you do. Holy shit. This is my favorite day so far this year.
Yeah, my kids don't let me live that down.
I've only known you in this incarnation of your career, which is a delightful one.
Well, thank you.
But I didn't know you were so cool back
Those
then.
were special memories right there.
We all went through. I had the spiky hair and the mullet at one point, listening to rap. Round and round.
Oh my gosh,
dude!
Yes.
I was a little metalhead kid growing up.
Really?
Yeah, right until I got in high school, and I went through a gangster rap phase. Yeah, like bad gangster rap.
Okay.
You're so hard.
Like Ghetto Boys and NWA.
Oh
and
my gosh!
Too Short.
Yeah,
it was. I was the.
So you were in Northern Kentucky? Is that
I was in Southeast Kentucky.
Okay.
Over by Hazard.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Dust.
There you go. If I put my
David was in a Christian band called Highway to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven.
We got called that quite a few times. I remember Nan Kelly introduced us as Highway to Hazard.
Well,
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
The one
Right there.
The one I always get is like, and please, he sang with Shania Twain, and he says, "Please welcome Brian White." And I'm
We
like,
weren't going to bring it up.
I'm not that guy. I'm not.
I love Someone Else's Star, man.
Great song.
It's a great
my favorite
tune.
Brian White song.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh!
I did a show with him a couple of years ago. He doesn't age.
You know what?
That Brian White. You don't age either, really.
Yeah, the gray's not giving anything away here. You know, he's such a good dude.
He really is one of the
Are you
sweetest
buddies?
people ever.
Yeah, we are. You know what's funny is like
I bet it's really confusing in a room when you two are together.
we wrote a couple times together, and I'd turn it in, and my publisher would be like, "Okay, Brian White and Brian White. Okay, this is not a nightmare for anybody."
Right.
And I said, "Let's BRY, and as long as the money, see if you can send some of his money my way,
Right.
that would be really good."
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know, my wife tours. She's a Christian artist, and she speaks on behalf of a child organization, you know, for a compassion organization. And Brian's brother worked for that organization, Daniel.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, "Oh, my brother needs to meet your brother and your husband." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah."
Mm-hmm.
So I was walking out of Cool Springs Mall one night, and he came walking out, and I was walking in, and I went, "Brian?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Brian?" And I'm like, yeah. So we
The
met.
Brian White?
Yeah. And
The Brian White?
so we.
It's the Spider-Man meme, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But the
That's
fun
it.
thing is, we did some shows together. We called it Brian White Squared.
No.
Nice.
And then my buddy Steve Dean and Barry Dean, we did one
No
called
relation.
we would do a night with the Whites and the Deans, you know. And
Okay.
so-
I love that.
but it was just, you know, great dude. But I have had more times, even to this day. I was playing a festival recently, and this lady walked up and she looked at me. She goes, "I loved all of your songs," and I said, "Thanks." And she goes, "Hey, you look a little different." And I said, "Well, you're probably thinking about the guy who sang Someone Else's Star and Rebecca Lynn." She goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, that's not me." And she goes, "Oh, well, I'm sure you're really good too."
People are so kind when they insult you.
Oh my gosh.
It's I have for a while I kept getting these alerts from BMI. It's like your song Smack That Hoe. You know,
you wrote it.
you're making some money off of this.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. And what is this? And I would look at my statements and I would look at my registered songs. I was like, well, some of my songs aren't on here. They were going to a Dave Tolliver in Atlanta.
And he was cashing that check.
He was, and so was I. He's a 450-pound black man, which I've become friends with him now. We talk.
That's
like I'll
awesome.
get tagged on stuff on Instagram, and it's like tonight at Big Shots. You know, it's Little Pistol Shooter and my homie Little Head Wound and Dave Tolliver, and I'll hit it back. I'll be like, Dave, I think they're looking for you. And he just like, yeah, man, that's me.
Oh, that's funny.
amazing.
But it's weird though, you know. It's like,
I never got to go to a Little Head Wound show.
yeah, Little Head Wound, the homie,
Yeah.
Little Pistol Shooter,
They'd
Little
always-
Bang Bang.
They'd say, like, "So what was it like singing with Shania?" And I was like,
Did you ever just go? It was great.
"Well, you know what?" I told Karyn, I said, "Sometime I'm going to." I produced an artist, a Latin artist from Miami, and so they came up here, and her manager, and they wanted to take me to dinner. They were talking about producing her record, and they would talk like this: "Brian, we love you so much. These songs you have written," and I'm sitting there at dinner, me and my wife, and so I got up to go to the bathroom. And they look. My wife is drop dead beautiful, and they look across at her and they go, "So when have you quit doing the soap operas?"
Oh.
And Karyn goes, "I don't think. Oh, we love the soap operas, and your husband's voice is so magnificent. What he has done with Shania." And so we realized. So I come back from the bathroom, and my wife's eyes are about the size of saucers, and
Yeah.
she's just looking at me like, "These people think you're the other guy." And so I'm getting hired to produce a record on a gal that doesn't even know who I am, really. And so I just had to tell him right there. I said, I think you think I'm somebody else. And the manager goes, "Oh, no, we have known many of your songs." And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he starts naming off some of my songs.
Okay.
And he goes, I said, "Well, it's the other guy that sang with Shania." He goes, "Oh, well, this is okay for us.
It's amazing.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
Your cog just locks up. You're like, all right, whatever.
yeah, okay, let's just roll,
It's fine.
baby.
I'm fine. You're fine. We're
If you
fine.
can deal
We're
with it,
all
I can
fine.
deal with it.
Buenos dias, you know?
Well, I went down then, and they wanted me to do a duet with her, and in Spanish. And I'm going, I don't even speak
Oh,
Spanish.
I want to. If you did
And
this, I want to hear
did.
this too.
And they said, we will teach you how to sing, Brian, with phonetics. So they wrote out phonetically every line.
Wow.
And I went down to Miami and we recorded that thing, and they released it and to the Latin market back. Oh, this is years ago, and but they were like, I jokingly said, it's Jackie Arredondo. That's her name, is Jackie Arredondo. And I said, and Blanco.
Blanco Gringo.
Yeah, they like this, Blanco.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Crazy stuff.
That's amazing. So Brentwood Benson, you had your record deal. And what year was your record deal around? How long did that last? How long did you justice it up?
I justed it up about 15 years.
15 years.
I did 5 records. I did a couple independent and then 3 label deal records. My last record, next to last record, was on Diadem Records, which I was on the label with a guy named Bob Carlisle.
Oh, yeah.
And
Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah. And so our
yes.
album just got ready to release first single, and Butterfly Kisses was blowing up. And I'll never forget, man. We walked into the label one day, and we're getting ready to go out and do a radio tour and all that kind of thing. And it was all hands on deck for Bob Carlisle and Butterfly Kisses. And Brian White and Justice is just going to have to sit over here and simmer.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we did that. And then I signed another deal with a label called Liquid Disc. And there's a guy named Steve Griffith. And he was a big deal in the kind of contemporary side with Charlie Peacock and Jimmy Abeg and guys like that. And so that was the last picture where I had my hand on my chest, that whole thing.
The chest hand.
Yeah.
The glossy nails.
And we did that record. You know what? It was one of the more fun records I ever did because we, as a band, we played everything. We wrote everything. It was just legit, like, let's go in, and we locked it down. It was kind of like, we went in and locked up. Steve had a big, beautiful home studio, and his whole downstairs high ceiling was a studio. So we just went in there and locked it down, and we wrote and recorded and just created. And it's now, if you listen to that record, that's way more progressive than anything I ever did. It's pretty rocking at places. And my kid, my son, who is 37 now and is an unbelievable musician, owns East Side Music Supply over here in Nashville, and just great guitar player. He tells me, Dad, I still listen to that record.
Wow.
So, I'm like, okay.
Well, I'm leaving here. I'm buying it and listening on the way home.
It's called Crowd of Faces. We changed the name of the band.
Crowd of Faces?
Yeah, because of the whole Brian White thing.
Yeah.
So we just said, well, this record, let's just go with something different. We are Crowd of Faces, and the record was called Talk Show Circuit. And, and so that was getting ready to just really ramp up and go.
Yeah.
About 2000. And that's when the head of the label, he kind of freaked out over the whole Y2K thing. And he sold everything and moved to Coos Bay, Oregon.
Whoa.
And
that's dramatic.
Yes, it was. We're like, you're doing what? And
wow.
So there we are.
Over a computer glitch.
Oh, my gosh. there we are with a brand new record.
That was a wild time, though. I remember,
people freaked out, man.
Everybody's having Y2K parties. All right, we're going to have rolling blackouts for God knows how long.
And then everything was fine.
Then the ball drops and nothing changed.
Yeah.
But that was...
I went back to Applebee's. It was amazing.
But that was, that lasted, I guess I came off the road about 2001. I'd gone through a divorce, unfortunately, and just decided, I'm just going to sit here and write, become more of a writer.
Yeah.
And that's really when everything started to kind of blow up on the countryside and on the Christian side as well. And, but it's funny how, for me, having been in ministry all my life, I just felt like a divorced guy. The Lord, there's no way, God doesn't have any place for me.
Yeah.
And of all the people, and I don't mean to sound like that, but I was at Universal at the time, and Ron Stuvey. And he looked across at me. He goes, you think God's done with you? And I said, yeah.
Stuvey said this?
Yeah. And he goes, that ain't the God I know. Him and Leigh Reynolds. And they were going to this church called The Gathering we met in the theater.
Yeah.
And I, being single and divorced, and I was ashamed about being divorced. And I don't know if I want to walk back into any of the churches around here because that's Brian, you know. And so Ron goes, well, why don't you go to church with me? And I said, all right. So he said, meet me here at the Thoroughbred Theaters out there at Cool Springs. And I met him there, and we walked in and walked up towards the back and sat in the dark.
I went to that church one time.
I remember that.
Yeah, and David Foster was the pastor there. And I just thought, okay, I need this for my heart and my spirit, but I just like being back here in the back and nobody knows I'm here.
Yeah.
Well, that was the time that Regina was dealing with her cancer situation. And so the next week, Ron goes, and we loved baseball. So Ron said, bring your baseball glove, and after church, we'll go over here in this field and we'll throw some ball. And he was just a real friend to me. And so he said, well, come back. So I went about 3 weeks in a row with him. And about the third week, we're walking in, him and I. Mm-hmm. And I said, do you think these people think that me and you? And he goes, without a doubt. And I thought, surely they think I got better taste than that, you know. But you know what? It was a real healing time for me, and I'm thankful for Ron and those guys. And so, as the Lord would work, David asked me. He knew what I'd been a pastor and spoke and things, and he asked me to fill in for him one weekend when he was going to be on vacation, and I did. And that was just a precursor to what was ahead, because he passed away on Palm Sunday. I forget how many years back it is now, and that on Sunday he went home from church, laid down, took a nap, never woke up.
Wow.
So on Tuesday, his wife called, my wife, and said, hey, do you think Brian would speak on Easter Sunday? And my wife said, sure. Of course. Yeah. And then proceeded to call me, and I was in a writing appointment that day, and I was like, honey, I don't know.
That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
That's like WrestleMania for church, you know?
But I followed through, and I said yes, and that led to 2 years of me preaching 2 weeks a month at that church.
Bananas, man. Yeah. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know that you were, I mean, I knew you were involved in the church and Christian music and everything, but I did not know to that extent. That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't really know that either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't come to your church and hear you preach one day.
Probably you didn't chase me out.
No, but, I didn't.
You know, it was cool for me because it was God's thumbs up, so to speak. You know, the good thumbs up. Like, hey, you know, I got you. And it was Ron and Leigh Reynolds. I don't know if you know who Leigh Reynolds is.
Yeah, I remember Leigh.
Yeah. And I was just like, these guys loved on me and just gave me nothing but support. And it was cool. I mean, you know, and I look back on that time in my life, and about that time I was, like I said, I was single and I wasn't sure where I was headed. And then as God had it, I met my wife. I remarried.
What year did y'all get together?
We met December 3rd, 2007.
Okay.
And she had come to do a record here in town, and one thing led to another.
Of course it did.
Yeah, and it was like, hey, you should meet Brian White. This is a funny story. So there used to be a little Greek place right down there on Demumbrium, right there in the corner.
Yeah.
Next to the fly fishing place.
Yeah.
Greek place. Yeah. And my buddy who was going to help produce it, I hadn't met her yet, and she hadn't met me, and he said, meet us for lunch. Look her up, Karyn Williams. So I type in Karen. Mm-hmm. She spells it with a Y. I did not know that, but if you type that in, well, this African-American R&B singer comes up. Yeah. And I think, okay, that's who I'm meeting. Yeah. She looks up Bryan and thinks she's meeting the other Brian White. And she walks into lunch that day, and I'm looking at her going, whoa.
You got light.
Oh, dude. And you know what? And it was that day, and it was on. We got engaged in at Key West in 2009.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I sure do. I was there.
Yeah.
I was in Key West, I think. Yeah. Or I remember it. I don't know. It's that's a foggy time
Stormy
for me.
was there doing what was that show he did on GAC.
Headline Country.
Yeah, he was there,
Oh, yeah.
and we interviewed us and this whole thing. But that was, you know what? It was. I couldn't have planned it. Couldn't have written the script out any better.
Dude, that's amazing.
So I've been married for 16 years to the most beautiful
awesome.
woman in the world.
Yeah, you outkicked it, bro.
Really far.
I'm way out of my league.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I know you're.
We
I know you're
outkicked them.
Yeah, all of us.
We outkicked them.
We got nothing but the Lord to thank for that, boy.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, it's amazing. What was your first big contemporary country hit? Was it Watching You, or was
No, I wrote a song on a writer retreat with Craig Wiseman and a guy from England, and that was my first time to ever write with Craig. And I was intimidated. I was like, oh my god,
was he doing his snuff?
Well, yeah, and it was
English snuff.
and you know how Craig is.
Yeah.
He'll kind of mumble, and I'm just sitting there with a pad, just like mumble, mumble, and then he say something, and I just remember getting that it was the last day of the retreat, and they were calling everybody's names out who's going to write, and all those guys that were there were wanting to get with Craig because he's coming off Chesney and everything else, and they called my name, and I'd never been in that relationship with any of those guys really, and I'm sure some of them were probably mad, like I can't believe the gospel guy's getting in there, but we did, and we wrote.
You give him the thumbs up, like hey.
So we wrote a song called "Rough and Ready." And
Trace Adkins.
Yeah, and they came home. We did a work tape on a cassette, and they sent it over on Tuesday.
Cassette is a very old time
yes,
phrase.
It is, man.
Yeah.
And then on Thursday they called and said, "Hey, Trace is going to cut this," and I was like, "What?" And of course I was writing on the gospel side, and I'm telling my publisher that, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing, dude!" And I'd hung around the coffee pot long enough to talk to Ed Hill and those guys and Bill Luther and to know
great dudes right there.
Oh
man.
yeah,
Were you still at Brentwood Benson this time?
I was, but it was kind of the joint venture because they knew I'd written some country stuff, so I had the door open to me to come down and write at Universal anytime, but they were all partnered together. The gospel division was in.
Was it still BMG though at the time?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, because the Universal thing happened after I left.
It was. Yeah. It was BMG because Michael Purrier was my publisher up at the other end, and but it just, you know what? It was a cool thing, and then they call, and that was when "One Hot Mama" was the first single off that record, and it wouldn't go away. It just was on the charts forever. And so everybody's going, man, they're probably only get 2 singles off this record. Well, I didn't think I had a chance in the world.
Yeah.
And they called and said, hey, you got Trace Atkins' next single.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And I'll never forget, Ed Hill said, brother, get ready to do the mailbox dance. I didn't know what that meant, because I mean, in Christian music, you can make a living at it, but you got to get a lot of cuts. And I was fortunate enough to do that.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, I walked out there, the first check came the first quarter, and I pulled that check out, and I'm standing on the street, and I opened it up, and I looked at it, and then I looked around like, am I getting punked? There's just no way they're giving me this kind of money, know? And, but it was cool. And that was my first big cut.
Nice.
And country music. So,
wow.
And went on from there to Neil McCoy and some other folks. And then, of course, in Rodney,
Rodney.
I remember the first time I heard that song. I was like, I'm so annoyed that I didn't write this because I have all those words. I can say chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
I can. Orange drink. I've got all that up in there.
Yeah.
I curse, in the car with the kids.
A lot of 4-letter words.
A lot of 4-letter words.
You got it covered.
Yeah.
Well, the Buckaroo thing, I never, when Rod brought that up, and I was right with it was him and me and Steve Dean, and we just started talking about that, because his kid had gone to school and was saying hell, and he was like, I don't get it. Why is he doing that? We're like, dude, he's just doing what you do. He's just listening to you, and because he had that Going Through Hell song, and that's where it all kind of came around. And he said, let's write that. And so we started writing that part, and I said, I remember my dad, man, I'd come home and my dad would be sitting in his recliner reading his Bible, and he'd pray with me. And Rod went home that night, played some of it for his wife, and then came back and said, yeah, let's write that other part,
Who said Buckaroo?
That was Rod.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even know if I knew Buckaroo at that time.
Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah. And you know what was fun was when we went to the #1 party for Going Through Hell. And Mike Curb walks over to me and Steve Dean. He goes, guys, he goes, going through hell is Rodney's Indian Outlaw.
Yeah.
He goes, but watching you is going to be his Don't Take the Girl.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, from your lips to God's ears, baby, let it happen. So,
Let it go, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Mike, he was the one who really championed that song. I mean, just to be transparent, I just remember like the promo team didn't want that song. They were like, no. I mean, we're just coming off a giant, if you're going through hell, like we need to, I forget what the other song it was they wanted, but I remember Mike really fought for that song. He really believed in it. And that ended up being the most performed song of 2007.
Yeah.
Billboard Hot Country Song of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It got to the point I hated that song. It was played so much.
That's why I always joke that we want it to be played so much you hate it. We love it.
If I had to hear Buckaroo one more time.
How did you feel when you walked over to the mailbox that day?
Oh, my gosh. Dude. And you know what's crazy? And I still walk to the mailbox. That song is the gift that keeps on giving. And and you probably know this. Rod did a thing on Instagram or TikTok or one of those places last fall, and he's singing the verse, and then he stops and goes, "You ever wonder what happened to that kid in the video?" And then he goes like this. He points, and it's Eli singing, "I've been watching you, Dad, ain't they?" And so he's 21 or
He's got a
20
full
something.
beard.
And so now
Social
what
Security.
they've done, yes. So I get this text from Rod about 3 months ago, and it said, "Hey, just want you to know we're going in and recutting that with him, and they're going to re-release it on Father's Day weekend."
Yeah, Watching You 2.0.
Yeah,
Great.
I said, you know what? Let it be another, Heads Carolina, Tails California.
I
He's
hope,
got
man, I
two
haven't
younger
heard it
boys
enough.
now.
I hope it comes back around.
Yeah.
So angry.
Well, he can do it. He's got 2 younger boys now,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
a whole new generation of Watching You about to come out.
Dude, that couldn't happen to a nicer dude.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were talking about Rod. Thank
No,
you.
I don't
No,
like
he's not
Rodney. I don't
that
like Rodney at all. I don't like him or his wife. They're such
my
mean
gosh.
people.
Yeah.
They're 2 of the nicest people in this world.
You know what? And for me, I stood back and was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the way this is happening. And there was probably some doubt in my mind, like, is country radio going to play a song about orange drink covered his lap and Buckaroo and all that? But that was coming off of I remember like Lone Star had that sippy cup. We said
Mr.
it.
Mom.
Yep.
Yeah. And well, maybe they will. I don't know. And I just had no idea that
That was probably the last window of availability where that song would have
You're
worked.
right.
Yeah.
You're right. But you know what? I play so many festivals and stuff, and I will get to this day. People walk up and go, "That was my dad and I's song.
Yeah.
And that was
Sure.
That was my granddaddy and me, and riding around in his truck or whatever." And it's kind of cool to know that you kind of had you left your fingerprints on something.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those songs that people, I mean, you say identify with, but you can really identify with that because every parent has experienced it.
Oh yeah.
And every kid has done what their parents did.
Sure. And that's
To a fault.
That's not a song that's stuck in this point in time. That's a song that can resonate with every child growing up with their parent.
Well,
Yeah.
if my kid, I forget that year when it went #1, and they had the festival at the stadium. And so we went because Rod was playing, and I'm sitting there. My son was at that age where he's kind of cool and hip, and what Dad does is he cool and hip, and and we're sitting there, and he breaks into the chorus, and that whole stadium is singing that chorus, and I forget, my son just turned and he looked at me and goes, "That's cool, Dad." And I was like, yeah, that's why I brought you.
Big thumbs up. 2
Big
thumbs
thumbs
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That makes me happy.
yeah.
I kind of got a little chills there when you said that's a moment. I would,
Yeah, it's a great
I'm not
moment.
going to cry. We're not crying.
Don't
today. We're not storming today.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. What do you got going on right now you're excited about, man?
Well, you know what? I'm writing at Red Street,
Yeah.
which I'm excited about that relationship over there. The industry changes. I've had my cuts with Aldean and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and
you had #1 with Aldean,
yeah.
Which one was that again?
Blame It on You.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that camp I was in, but everything changes, and so I'm in a new place with new people and developing new relationships.
Yeah.
I still write a lot on the Christian side and have some singles out on that, but the country side, they've got both going on over there at Red Street.
Yeah.
And so they're putting me in some rooms.
That's
and,
good, man.
I don't think I'm chasing it as hard as I used to because, you know what? I think what's supposed to come to you will come to you. And I'm not going to bang anybody's door down. And when you're young, I'll never forget me and Phil Barton. We write 3 times a day. In the night, hey man, you want to get together at 7:00 tonight? I'm going, sure, let's do it. I've only written 3 songs today. Why not 4? You know? And so at some point you just go, you know what? I'm going to go home and sit on my back patio and stare out at my mini horses and have a good cocktail or something and enjoy the night.
You said mini horses.
Yeah, I want to go back to that.
Yeah, we can't just gloss over mini horses.
If you saddle a mini horse and ride it around, I need those pictures too. While you're wearing your glitter fingernail polish.
How big are these mini horses?
In your Creed shirt.
In my Creed shirt.
Creed shirt. That album cover couldn't be more Creed.
Yeah, well, you're right. That was me being Scott.
Amazing.
You know what? We were fortunate to get some property. My neighbor is Will Nance.
Yeah.
So Will has 7 acres. We have about 5 right next door to each other in Mount Juliet. And the whole property was fenced in at one point. It used to be a farm. And along the fence row is trees have grown up, so the fence is back in there. So it's a gorgeous piece of property, and we're unbelievably thankful that we're there. But when we got it, we were like, my wife's like, why don't we get some miniature donkeys? And I said, well, we got a place to put them. Why not? So we built this fencing, and we went to look for miniature to a rescue farm. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, we don't have any donkeys right now, but we got a couple miniature horses. Mm. And I'm thinking, what do they look like? Weird, And sure, this little white horse comes out. It's beautiful. And this other brown one, like a Shetland. And so, sure enough.
How big are they?
They're about waist high, a little bit higher than that.
So they're not like, yeah.
Kids, you see them a lot at like kids' birthday parties where they put them on there and walk them around or whatever. Now, Will Nance tells me every time I'm gone, he rides the crap out of them.
I could see
He's
him.
probably not lying.
I could see his flowing curly hair just flopping. But he's holding a carton of eggs.
Exactly. Yeah, he's got those. So we have 2. We named him Henley after one of my favorite all-time bands of all time, the Eagles, and then the other one, my wife's aunt said, well, you need to call the white one Justice. So
yes.
Did you spell it different?
Nope. Did not spell it different. But so we have Henley and Justice.
Amazing.
And then we have a little miniature sheep who is part Shih Tzu, part mini poodle, and his name is Earl Scruggs.
Nice. I love it.
And and then we just got 2 barn cats because they're basically pest control. Yeah. But we named them, and they're named Boomer and Chase after 2 of my favorite Bengals. Mm-hmm. And so over Easter holiday, I bought my wife a chicken coop because she wants chickens. So.
You're just going farming out, ain't you?
You're just going full tilt.
There's,
I can't wait to hear the chicken names.
Oh, well, I told her you can't name them because they're going to get eaten by something, so you don't want to name things, get too attached to them.
No, by you maybe.
Yeah, well, we have, some bobcat and fox and coyote out in that area, and Will always walk over in the morning one day and he'll go, well, it was a massacre on Nance country and there's feathers everywhere.
That could have been more Will Nance.
So Will Nance.
Wow.
I love it.
Well, should we have him?
Yes, we should.
Let's spin it.
What are we doing here?
Have you ever spun a wheel of shame?
The wheel of shame. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not going to know what it is.
Price is Right, but way worse.
And we're just going to keep spinning until we find something you want to do.
I had a new category.
You did?
I did.
What is it?
I forget what it's called.
Did you take off Pinche Pendejo?
Took off Wake the Dead.
No.
What is that?
999. Are you a drinker at all?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what that is.
It's called Rumplemans.
Oh.
Rumplemans.
You've been to Key West.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You going to do a shot of Rumplemans with me?
Of course he is.
A shot of Rumplemans.
Have you ever had it?
No.
Oh,
I guess I should.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, it's going to be a party.
Okay, wait. I'm looking at these other things. Like, what is Pincho?
Pinche Pendejo.
What is that?
It's a very bad curse word in Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see the tortilla slap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course it is. It's all sugar. The tortilla slap. Hang on. I got to open something.
Jasper Newton. Okay, I got to know what that is.
That's Jack Daniels.
That's Jack Daniels' real name, Jasper Newton Daniel.
He was born Jasper Newton
Really?
Daniel.
Never have I ever. Okay, that would.
Oh my God, that smells awful.
Oh, thank you. And I've agreed to do this. Okay.
That's why I quit drinking, Brian.
Oh my gosh, Chubby Bunny. Oh, I know what Chubby Bunny is. I've done that.
One of the best ones.
I've done that with
Colt
my youth
actually
groups
was
forever.
undefeated until last week. JD Gruber took him down.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of that as a youth pastor when we had to have Friday night at a retreat.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. So I'm not sure what I've agreed to here, folks, but it's in a glass with an X on it.
Have you ever used mouthwash?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
This is 100 proof mouthwash.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Am I going to be able to drive my car home after this?
Well, these are like just half shots.
Tiny baby shots.
All right.
Cheers,
Come on,
my friend.
Buckaroo.
Cheers. Cheers to the Buckaroos.
That's
Cheers
right.
to
Here's
the
the
Buckaroo.
Watching you 2.0 and beyond.
Ugh, I'm so glad it's not me.
Oh, yeah. If that not justice in a glass, I don't know what is.
That don't take you back to your sorority parties. I don't know what does.
That's got a good burn all the way down.
Yeah,
to
all
my
the way
sphincter.
All right.
Oh my
And
gosh.
now, for your last trial here,
Oh, I drink something and now what do I do?
Oh, you got to
You'd like
snort
to know.
something now.
have you ever snorted anything? What I have here is a bottle of Atomic Rhino smelling salts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lid off. You're going to hold the bottle right here and give it a proper man sniff.
Oh my
I don't even know what a proper man sniff is.
Oh, I can smell it already.
Give it a proper sniff. Yeah.
Don't die on us.
Yep.
He sees the Lord.
I saw Jesus' eyes. How does that feel? That may be my favorite reaction to the smelling salt.
Taste that.
Yeah.
It's mixing with the Conchero Owego or whatever that was. We just oh my!
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm crying.
That lit me up.
That's probably my favorite reaction.
I feel that one all the way down to my sphincter.
He lost his words.
No,
He lost his eyesight.
What is that?
it's concentrated smelling salts. It's basically ammonia. It's concentrated ammonia.
Oh, my brain cells are dead.
What Colt and I will save our pee for a couple weeks, and we send it in to the Rhino people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, is that a legit thing? That
Yeah. So typically people like bodybuilders, when they have to lift really heavy weight, they'll do some of that and it just gets their adrenaline flowing and they're just like, "Grr."
Yeah, that just makes them mad is all it does. Like, what the crap did you just put under my nose? I'm going to throw these weights at you.
It's awful. It's
You know,
nothing.
you had to carry that in the car with you next time a guy tailgates you or whatever. Just sniff that.
Man, I don't want to do that to him. You know, I can't believe we did it to you.
I think I singed the hairs on the inside of my nose. Man.
If your eye, if I do it, my left eye won't stop watering
That's
for
what
a
this one's
day.
doing, man. It's just like that.
It's ridiculous. It's mean spirited.
Residual effects will be,
Yeah.
We are a great sport for doing
Yes,
it.
thank you, and thank you for coming in and talking to us today,
Hey,
Brian.
man,
buddy. It was
I
awesome.
appreciate you
It was
guys,
fun.
and I will say I admire both of you. You guys have been in the business, and we are all in this together. We're
still here.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know what? We're still here. And there's a buddy of mine, Tony Wood.
Oh,
and
Tony.
Tony.
Tony and I have written in this town for a lot of years together, and we kind of laugh about the guys that used to be in our class, so to speak, and they've either left and selling real estate or got smart and did something else. But but we're still here, man. We're still believing.
Still trucking, baby.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
guys
man.
for having me.
Yeah, buddy.
And,
we love you, and we thank you for coming on.
Thank you. My nose thanks you. And,
We'll get you another one on the way out.
well, I'm good. I'm good to go.
Colt, tell them what they need to do.
Yes, we are available on all streaming platforms. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Rate, subscribe, follow,
Send
comment.
us money.
Go look up Brian White, Justice.
Not that one. The other
and
one.
Justice.
gosh.
BRI.
What was the other name of the band?
Crowd of faces.
Crowd of Faces.
Coming tonight to the Civic Center.
then,
Crowd of Faces. Come on.
And go stream Watching You nonstop.
Yes.
Be Buckaroos.
Brian
Thanks, guys.
White and Mike Kerwood. Greatly appreciate it.
We'll see you.
Bye,
Thank you.
bye.